Thank you for having me here today. I have put together a few slides simply because it will give me some structure. Because when I speak on this topic on brand building for entrepreneurs, I can tend to get carried away, and I can speak for hours. So I'm also timing myself, but somebody just be my timekeeper and be my voice of reason and cut me when you feel that there's not much time. So that's one thing. And secondly, I really want to make it interactive. So we'll walk through some slides, but I'm going to leave a lot of time towards the end. At least that's my endeavor, so that whatever questions you have, whatever discussions and points that you have, we can take that all up together. Okay, that sounds fine. Is there anything that you want to tell me right at the beginning, or otherwise I'll just start sharing my screen and we're good to go.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Devapriya, we'll send a message on the screen to give you a heads up on the time left rather than anything else. So just maybe the last 5 minutes, you'll get 2 heads up, 5 and then 10.
Okay. I'm just trying to, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my topic for today pretty much is what was written on the creative, and Kanchan and I, we debated a bit about what we should really be talking about. And I said that, okay, so what is it that we're doing as entrepreneurs on a day-to-day basis? We are looking at building experiences. We are looking at positioning ourselves. So again, Sanjeev, you spoke about the 3 S's. I'm speaking about the 3 I's, and throughout my presentation, you'll be seeing a lot of these alphabets coming in and making the explanation simple for you. So as entrepreneurs, we want income. We want to create impact, as we saw from all of you who spoke towards the PAT award. And we want, so income, obviously, that's why we're in business. Impact, we want to create that impact. And what do you think is the other I, the third I? Just keep using the chat box. It'll be interesting if you can use the chat box. What is, I don't know why I can't see the chat box. I don't know why I can't see the chat box, and it's important for me to see the chat box.
Else we may be allowed to unmute and make verbal statements.
Yeah. But for some reason, I'm not able to see the chat box. That's all right, but you can see my screen, okay? Or somebody just unmute yourself and tell me what's the
impact. A third I could be impact.
So
innovation, impression.
Income, impact, and
intuition, insights, innovation, Rani,
innovation, impression,
all of
intuition.
That. But all of that is great. But the I that I'm talking about really is influence. Because as entrepreneurs and business owners, we want to influence our stakeholders towards our vision, towards what our mission, I would say, right? So that's the reason why I said that, if entrepreneurs keep their entrepreneurial acting, which is doing and being, and mesh with it the dynamics of a brand, that's when I think the magic begins, and that's when brand building for an entrepreneur begins to make sense as well. Otherwise, a lot of times we feel, and I'll come to that in a bit, and a lot of times we feel that as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, what is the need to really build a brand? Okay. Now, tell me how many of you identify with this picture out here, because I certainly do. So this is the life of an entrepreneur, right? At any point in time, we are doing multiple things. Even for you to come log in at 7:45, there are so many of these things that you would have put in. Deepa has even managed to put in a bit of journaling in the morning. So Deepa probably belongs to the 5 a.m. club. But just to get our act together and get here, we have to do so much. Now tell me, how is it possible in the middle of all this if someone tells us, okay, in this is where you are, you really so amongst us Bengalis, we have Durga, Ma Durga, which is supposed to, who's supposed to have, And she really symbolizes an entrepreneur because she's supposed to think, she's supposed to look after everybody, and women entrepreneurs would be nodding here. You're supposed to raise your, even if you have one kid, you have to put that kid in the online class, do everything, right? And then there are people like me who are telling you to build a brand. How is it possible and why is it possible? Okay, so that's really what the discussion will be today. But before we sort of go ahead, maybe because typically I do this on the chat box, but I can't see the chat box. Just two of you, maybe one by one, if you can unmute yourself and tell me, what does a brand really mean to you? Anybody? Vikas?
Like how
Yeah,
the world sees me, or how I would like the world to, look at me.
So I would say my identity and my values.
I would say my
Beautiful.
culture, my company culture must be seen in the brand.
To me, it is about indispensability. If I'm a brand and I evoke loyalty in my customer will walk 3 miles to buy me rather than buy a substitute at a nearer store.
Awesome. I think my job is done pretty much. You all have nailed it one by one. I mean, I'm sure if I ask all of you, you're going to come up with similar explanations. But it's amazing how you've spoken about brands being an inside-out journey. That's what it's about, the intangible. Because honestly, this is what a brand really is. Can you see my screen? And do you agree?
Yes.
A brand is nothing more than a collection of perceptions and experience that you're creating at every point in time in the minds of a consumer. And that consumer could be a consumer of your services, could be a consumer of your products, could be a consumer of your radiology services, could be a consumer of your furnishing services, and for a parallel entrepreneur like Kanchan, could be a consumer of your personal brand, right? So at any point in time, what is the moment of truth? What are the experiences that you're creating in the minds of a consumer? And why I've put up this image of Starbucks is that, just to, because throughout I'll be using some examples of brands that we all know and we've experienced. I mean, long before Starbucks really came into India, I had gone to New York for some work, and I kind of found this coffee shop without really knowing too much about it, and they made me feel special. They made me feel special by personalizing, in a city that nobody really where nobody really bothered about me. They had my name on that cup. They literally positioned themselves as the third place between your home and your work, and they made me feel like that. They didn't expect me to leave, and the whole experience was very good for me. Later on, when Starbucks opened up in Gurgaon in Ambient Mall, we went across because that experience was vibrant in my mind. When I walked in, a lot of that whole thing was replicated, but there were certain service parameters that may have been missing. However, I always I prefer to pay that extra bucks to go and get a Starbucks coffee at times, though the catered coffee in my house is actually much better in taste. But I go simply because of the perception that I had formed of Starbucks long back and the experience that they had given me. And first impressions are lasting impressions. So somehow that kind of, stayed with me. I'm sure all of you have very many experiences, and you may like a particular brand because of those experiences, and the same people in your cohort out here will not like that brand simply because of a negative experience that we may have faced. Now, as entrepreneurs, we don't have mega bucks, but if we start with the premise that a brand is a collection of perceptions and experience in the minds of your stakeholders, and that could be internal and external stakeholders, then you will realize why brand building, even as an entrepreneur, is critical and why it's so important. And honestly, Richard Branson, who's probably the one of the most looked up to entrepreneurs. You may or may not agree with his brand values, but we can't go away from the fact that he's a successful entrepreneur. He has talked about, he's actually built his business keeping brand at the core, and he takes it another level. And he says that a brand is really not your logo, it's not your website, it's not your name, nothing. It is a promise. And when we make promises, and we're at a mature stage in our business and our lives, when we make promises, we do it very seriously. So as a business, remember that your brand is a promise and a contract with every customer whom you're dealing. It's really not about that 80-20 principle. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, that this one doesn't matter. It's a small customer. No, your brand is being built at every point of interaction with your stakeholders. And again, I repeat, internal as well as external stakeholders. And we can probably, I'm sure you understand what internal and external stakeholders are, but later when we're taking questions, we can bring this point back and talk about why it's important to focus on our internal stakeholders as well. Okay. Now, why do we need a brand? Anybody? Just maybe.
Identification and culture stamping of what
and Jawaharji, why is Sanjeevji, why is that important? Why is that stamping so important?
Firstly, before I answer that question, please eliminate the G part of it. I don't know why I'm getting needless respect. I'm a young man here. It's important to identify with you.
Yeah.
It's important to identify with what you stand for, what means something to you. Else, you're the one amongst many in the market.
Okay. So literally what this picture is depicting, right? All of us, we want to be chosen for our skills, for our abilities, for our efforts. We all want to be chosen. We don't want to be the gray guy standing there. We want our services, our business, our products to be picked up. And when Aman introduced himself and made his introduction, he talked about customer value proposition without really saying that he's talking about customer value proposition. And he talked about, you're leading a certain life, you're leading the high life, you've ticked off all the boxes when it comes to luxury. But hey, look inside you, look at your ecosystem and see, this, your paint is shipping, this is happening, that is happening. You have very ordinary furniture, so buy me. So by doing that, by like a simple communication or a marketing exercise, he's managed to tell people that, hey, I'm that red guy in a very overcrowded, commoditized furniture business. I am that red guy. So similarly, I'm sure all of you have that endeavor, right? You want to stand out. You want to be chosen, right? When we know that brand building is so important, however, as entrepreneurs, we have certain misconceptions around brand building, which hinders us, which wonders why, which really makes brand building get pushed to the bottom of the supply chain as far as your strategy goes, your business strategy goes. And what are some of the common myths? You'll all resonate with it, but I just want to call it out simply because when you put it out there, you're confronting it and you're working to dispel these myths. So the first myth that is surrounding us as entrepreneurs is that branding is for large organizations. But this is really a myth simply because, as we mentioned before, even if I'm a solopreneur, even if or I may be running the biggest organization in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, but at every point in time, we are creating those perceptions, we are creating those experiences, and therefore we are creating our brand, whether we like it or not, whether we're consciously thinking about it or not. So if that is happening, then it really makes sense for us to control the brand building process. Okay. Secondly, again, people think, we think, I think, many of you think that it's expensive to build a brand. And I work closely with many entrepreneurs, with many small and larger businesses as well, with many emerging businesses. And believe you me, the first thing that people come and tell me is that, okay, now I've got some money, therefore I can build a brand. Or the other way around. I don't have enough money to build a brand. I'm bootstrapped. I can't build a brand. Okay. Oh, I've just got funding, therefore I can spend some money. No. Those are the days of traditional media when you had to pay for TV, when you had to pay for newspaper, and all of us. I mean, I started my marketing journey at that point in time, many years ago, where getting a front page ad in Times of India would be so expensive, but we could afford it because we belong to brands like Nestle and GE and all, which used to go after my life to say paisa kharcho. Now becoming an entrepreneur, it was like paise bachao. So it is not expensive if you know how to in this digital era, which tools to tap into. And there's this whole bright shiny object syndrome that all of us fall privy to. I want to tell you straight away, don't buckle under that pressure. You don't need to spend a lot of money to follow the trends. You have to resist the bright shiny syndrome tendency or the temptation. Everything is not meant for your business. Everything doesn't need to be made for your business. So select wisely. Another thought process that we have as entrepreneurs is that we would rather invest our limited resources in our products, in perfecting our product, in perfecting our services, in getting the best radiology machinery in getting probably running the, having a very small office. All of that is fine. You want to invest in what propels your business forward, but please remember that brand building is as critical an input into your overall business growth. It is. I mean, it's not because I'm a marketer and a brand builder, but I've seen enough and more businesses not reaching the level of scale, success, and significance simply because they've neglected building a brand. The biggest myth is that social media is enough. Okay, so from startups to people who are just pivoting from corporate life to becoming an entrepreneur, to everybody that I'm talking to somehow come with the thought process that Instagram stories and reels are enough, and that's going to take, and you buy some Facebook ads, that's going to be enough. But social media is really not enough. It's about mapping and looking at different areas of brand building that will sort of help you build your brand without really having for you to get without really having you getting confused with which social media to tap into, how much money to sink into social media. It's not required. Social media at best can be a prong. It's your vehicle, and it's a reasonable cheap vehicle, like I said, mentioned before, but your brand can't be built on social media. Okay, so and social media is essentially marketing. Okay, but remember, marketing is what brings them to you. Okay, and this is an important the concept that I'm talking about, and I'd like you to take note of it. Marketing is what brings them to you. Branding is what keeps them with you. Very important. And why I'm talking about it is that it's easy to get first-time users to come in and try your business and your products and your services, but if you're not creating those memorable and impactful experiences, if you're in the bottom half of this picture, which is very in the hell part of the marketing cycle, then you're not really being able to keep your customers with you. They will try you and they'll go away, they'll switch. And what you've done is you've created a category task of creating the need for your product, but you've not been able to keep your customer. So the customer has switched and gone to your competitor. Okay, this is one reason why branding is again very important. But if you're building those memories, if you're building those, if you're building that emotional connect with your target audience, if you're showing them that your product is serving their deepest needs, then you're able to retain that customer. And all of us who have, we worked on customer acquisition strategies, we know that acquiring a new customer is far more expensive than retaining your existing customer. And your, retaining your existing customer really is what will make them into brand ambassadors. And that becomes your sales tool, because they will go and they'll do the talking for you. And as business owners, that's what we need. Because if word of mouth about your brand and your business is positive, that can be the biggest marketing tool. But if it's negative, then it can be your biggest stumbling block, and it can completely ruin your image. So look at some of these words that are on the heaven area, and many of you talked about it also earlier when you mentioned what a brand is for you. Rani, you spoke about authenticity in your conversation. Consistency is very important. Credibility, loyalty, and trust were also spoken about. And brands are really built on these keywords. At this point, if anyone has any observations or anything, you can stop me. Else we'll quickly go. I know I'm conscious of time, and I want to sort of cover the tips before we end. Anybody? Sanjeev, you unmuted?
I have a question, but I thought if you'll finish first, it might be better. Otherwise, we'll be deprived of that knowledge.
Yeah. Sure. Let's go ahead. Okay. Now, very quickly, see, this is the ecosystem that, and this is the environment that all of us as entrepreneurs are operating within. Okay, it's not a seller's market any longer. It used to be a seller's market earlier, even a few years ago, but now it's a customer's market. And what are customers expecting from us? The customer wants us to show them that we know them. So it's really the era of personalization and customization. Talk to me. I'm your customer. Address me by my name. Tell me that you will solve my problems. Don't push me. I'm not interested to get sold to. Okay. The customer, and this is the truth, the customer is buying. Okay. Vis-a-vis earlier, the salesperson was selling, we had limited options and we had to go ahead, right? The customer wants you, doesn't want to know about you, about what your challenges are, what your products are. The customer wants you to know his industry, his challenges, his objectives, all of that. And the additional, new thing that we all have to learn is that the customer is all online. And most of us belong to a generation where we learned everything in the traditional way. So now we are learning online business as well. We are learning online visibility as well. And that's what is making it a little more tough for us. So in this ecosystem, we also realize that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And how is it that you want to be known? How is it that your business wants to be known? See, here we are 15, 16 people in this room, and we are talking about our own businesses in our introductions, right? But you want so many other people to make the same introduction for you and on your behalf. That's why today in the morning, we've all gathered here today, and you gather every Monday. What is it that you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? What will Vikas say about Sanjeev? What will Deepa say about Shiv? What will Nandini say about Kanchan? Ultimately, that's what it is. And the reason why you give your elevator pitch again and again is so that the others can be trained to speak on your behalf. That is what brand building is. As entrepreneurs, one question I get asked all the time is that, should I build my personal brand? Should I build my founder brand? And the one thing that I want to tell you is that if you have 100 rupees in your wallet, please build your own brand as an entrepreneur, because your brand as an entrepreneur is really the sum total of your reputation and your credibility. Today, you introduced me as so many things, wearing so many different hats. So my core business is brand advisory and consulting SMEs and entrepreneurs. But people will come and work with me in other areas simply because of my personal brand. And that's as a speaker, as a director, as whatever, even for my passion project Connexus. You are all no different. Tomorrow, if any of you go and starts another line of business, the people will come to you, customers will come to you simply because on the basis of your personal brand and your reputation. My last corporate role really was as the marketing director of Carlsberg. And when I decided to move on, the vendors who were working with me, my team, everybody, they said, no, you can't leave, because, it was a very nice team and everything. But when we'll also leave, we'll not work here. So what do you think actually happened? In reality, when I moved on and the person who came in my place, everyone rallied around and worked with that person simply because of the big brand Carlsberg and everything that it stood for. And that the person was just an incumbent and a visiting card holder. When I moved on to becoming an entrepreneur, people came to work with me because of my reputation and credibility, right? So this is why it's very important for founders, for startups, business owners to build their personal brand. So that is one question that I get asked. I thought I'll talk about it right away. Now, there are a few things. I'm just, again, going to probably just rush through this slide, but if you want to take a screenshot, you're most welcome. This is really an important slide. Okay, right. I found the chat, so I'm just seeing if someone's telling me to hurry up. Okay, on one side, we have entrepreneur. On the other side, we have brand. And my promise today to you was to show you how to really dovetail the two, so that being an entrepreneur, you can start on your brand building process. So let's look at the first point, desire. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, we have a passion, we have the desire to build a business around our identified area, right? And that's why we are here. One thing that we are so eager to get to the market and to talk about ourselves because we are attached to our product and service is that we start talking about it outside in. We talk about what we do, then we talk about how we do it, and we hardly ever talk about why we do it. But if brands do it differently, and many of you here are leadership coaches and well-read people, all of you actually, you would have seen the Simon Sinek Golden Circle. All of you must have seen the Simon Sinek Golden Circle, where he talks about starting with your why. And that's what big brands actually do, right? What do? They talk about their purpose. They talk about why they're in it. As entrepreneurs, we should do the same, simply because that is what is helping us emotionally connect with our target audience, right? The second thing that we talk about, we act when we talk as when you say acting like an entrepreneur, we put return on investment first. How much are we investing? What are we getting out of it? I would say in this context that choose very wisely. Okay, don't. So it's not about spray and pray. Ye bhi kar diya, wo bhi kar diya. My marketing is done. Brand building is not like that. Think about Disney again, who built a huge brand, but he's an entrepreneur. End of the day, he built a huge brand, but he never really built a brand around his theme parks or his movies and all. He built his brand around the magical storytelling. Okay, Apple doesn't build a brand or doesn't talk about its laptops. Apple talks about innovation. Okay, why? So start with why. Choose your marketing vehicles accordingly. Your pillars of brand building. Choose it. Everything doesn't have to work for everybody. So the entrepreneurial thought process you're bringing into the brand building process. Cost efficiency. As entrepreneurs, we're all looking at making it a lean, mean machine. So therefore, select your niche. Okay. The next time when you're doing your elevator pitch, please talk about your target audience. Who is it? Who's your dream client? Who do you want to serve? Who do you want to have so many more of that will make you feel amazing and happy to get out of bed? Leave out the chick clients. Think about the ones who you want to work with more and more. And if you articulate your niche, then by the law of attraction, you're going to attract many more of those customers to come to you. So talk about it. Our communication target and our actual target are very different. So be really clear about who you want to talk to. Like, I will work with corporates, I'll work with others as well, but I want to work with SMEs and entrepreneurs. So in my introductions, I will always say that I'm a brand consultant who works with entrepreneurs. Maybe I'll take it to another level and say women entrepreneurs. So this is how your communication is becoming effective. As entrepreneurs, we're constantly learning from our experience. I would say please continue to learn from your experience, but build consistency into it. How your visual assets are looking. Look at the RECIPROCITY logo, for example. Your PPT, slides, everything is done very beautifully with the same typography, same colors, and same message, your messaging. And that's very important because that's how brand recall is built. As entrepreneurs, we have bias for continuous action. I would say that's great, but think like a brand. Think like a brand and invest in strategy. What is your point A right now? Where do you want to go? Which is your point B? And your strategy really will be the roadmap between A to B. Okay, I know I'm running out of time. Should I just skip to the last slide? Or can I take 2 minutes and go through this? Okay, go through it. I can see some heads nodding. So as an entrepreneur, the M that matters to us is money. End of the day, yeah. But if we mesh that thinking with the 4 M's that matter in brand building, here is a journey that I would like you to follow, and you can take a screenshot and keep it, and we can discuss it. The starting point really is mindset. So we stop thinking that we can't do it, we can't afford it, we don't need to do it, and we start thinking, we get into the mindset of a brand builder. Okay, so we are not building a business, we are building a brand. Get your messaging correct. Like I think with reciprocity, you've nailed it. Your tagline talks about why, as an entrepreneur, I need to be part of your ecosystem. I want to grow my business. I want to go to the next level, and reciprocity will enable me to do that. So this is the second M that you need to do for all your individual businesses. Then you market that message to your target audience only when your messaging is ready, and after that you look at monetizing your brand. So this is really the journey. And I want to leave you with 4 actionable tips that you can do right here, right now, maybe today itself after the session, that will take you from being a business owner to being a brand builder. The first thing you should do is Google your full name. Okay, just Google it and see whether you're liking what shows up, or it's making you cringe a little bit, or you want to do something in that area. Okay. Audit your existing brand assets before you jump onto new things. See what you already have. Do you already have a website that needs sort of revamping? Do you have a LinkedIn that needs to be looked at? Because LinkedIn is really the platform where a lot of brand building, personal brand building is done. I know some of you do it very, very well. Define a consistent visual identity. Entrepreneurs lack this. Entrepreneurs ignore this. But again, I can't really stress on it enough. The typography, the colors that you're using, the messaging, everything has to be consistent across all the platforms that you're occupying. And finally, please communicate your relevance, and don't communicate what your products and services are. To begin with, communicate your relevance. Who are your target customers, and do you know what their problems are, and how are your products and services solving that burning problem? That is what needs to be communicated, not the other way around, that I sell XYZ. I am solving that burning problem for you. That is what, and these are the elements of your brand strategy. So please invest in your brand strategy. Let it not be an impulse driven, or you get up in the morning, say you want to do something around your brand, and you do it. Brand building is based on strategy. It's not based on knee jerk. And finally, I want to leave you with this thought that successful entrepreneurs don't have wishes and dreams. They have goals and plans. So build a brand and not just a brand.